Hello, Golden Valley parents. This is Deanna Ronningen again, practical arts teacher, here to give you an overview of practical arts through the ages of 7 to 14 years old. And before we talk about what we do and why we do it, I'd like to just define practical arts for just a minute. I like to say practical arts is artistic pursuits with a practical purpose. And in Waldorf schools, generally people immediately think of handwork. And it is true, that is the majority of the practical arts education in most Waldorf schools. However, things like gardening, of course, farming, those pursuits are definitely practical arts, as well as woodworking, clay work, basketry, glasswork, metalwork. Even the most mundane tasks that we do at home, like cleaning and doing our laundry, can be done with beauty and enthusiasm for the work at hand, and would certainly fall under that category of practical arts. Now, Rudolf Steiner was very focused and keenly aware on the need to activate the will in the child, with the goal being leaving the lower school with the ability and capacity of self-motivation and self-control, of being able to engage their own will for the purposes of the next stage in their lives. In practical arts, we're constantly working to entice children to endeavor into the unknown, with all that entails. We tell them we're going to make something, and we build upon capacities, and we understand that that might come with some anxiety of not knowing if they can do it and if theirs will turn out right, and the wonder of, I wonder what's going to happen, but really asking them to persevere and hold on through the end as we bring them through to the other side where their project is complete, that powerful moment of fulfilling that picture that they were developing in their heads. I like to call it bringing them through the eye of the needle. Really that contraction and expansion that happens, that unknown, and coming through and pushing ourselves even though we might want to give up or we don't believe in ourselves, and coming out the other side, completing and knowing that we can. That sense is very important, especially in this day and age where so much is skipped over and children don't get that sense that they're going to be okay and that they can do something even if they're not sure how to do it or what's going to happen on the other side. So how do we do this? We do this by engaging the imagination, a sense of wonder and excitement through the projects that we bring, the gestures that we're making when we're making them, and the time in a child's development that we bring them. We certainly follow the developmental model that Steiner lays out, and we follow the curriculum that the teacher is teaching, and we mirror that with the understanding of where the child is in their development. For example, child age 7 to 8 years old, children really, we understand, learn through their imagination and repetition. So we bring much of the content that we do through stories and through songs that are easily recalled, and they're colorful. And we'll bring things like rolling a ball, finger knitting, and eventually knitting, and then defining and expanding our ability to knit. That helps the children of these ages, the 7 to 8 year old time, really bring their focus and attention to a finer point, and to bring their will into their hands. And we make the same stitches, that repetition I was talking about, over and over again, the same exact stitch repeatedly over and over again. We count our stitches at the end of every row, number 1 to number 20. We count them more than one time to make sure we have the right number. We look for any kind of mistakes to see if we can catch any extra stitches in there, or drop stitches that aren't on the needle where they belong. And if the children don't remember what they're supposed to do, often children will say, I don't remember how to knit. I forgot. I've been gone all weekend, or we had a vacation. And we'll just simply ask them about the story that we heard about Jack and the Giant. And if they remember that story, and if they do, maybe they remember what we say, that rhyme that we say. Where does that needle go? It goes in through the front door, runs around the back, out the window, and off jumps Jack. And usually before we get to that little reminder, the children are grabbing the needles from us and telling us they already know just what to do. So fast forward a little bit to third grade, or the 9-year change. And that's a time where children start to recognize that they're separate from everything around them. Their imagination isn't so outside of themselves, and it's more inside. And they can be a little nervous and afraid. It can be very overwhelming and a little scary to wonder what would happen if they were all alone. Would they be able to take care of themselves? So we tell them stories and we do activities to help soothe that transition for them, like cooking, like gardening and farming, like building, like learning about shelter, learning about textiles and fibers. So in the practical arts time, we'll focus a lot of our attention on wool and washing it and carding it and spinning it, weaving, crochet, and those types of things. And if we move into somewhere around the 12-year change, which can run anywhere between 5th and 7th grade, depending on the child, that's a time when we're really starting to want to be accepted. We want everyone to see us, but we don't want to feel very different. We know who we are, but we're afraid of being ridiculed. So we focus often on identifying who we are, bringing that gesture of bringing what's inside, and with strength and fearlessness, showing it to the world and being okay with who we are and having our individuality. So the projects that we do will mirror that in gesture and in practice that we do in the classroom. And fast forward to 14 years old, when the children have been toiling through the grades in their handwork and practical arts classes. They've been making all their stitches by hand, and they will learn around the same time they're learning about the Industrial Revolution in their class with their class teacher. They'll learn about the sewing machine and how that changed the world, and they'll learn the history of the sewing machine, how long it took human beings to even make a needle with an eye, let alone a machine that could sew and sew so much faster than people, and to give them a picture of what life was like when you had a good set of clothes and a set of working clothes, and you made everything by hand, and you fixed it when it broke. You didn't throw it away. And to help them understand how things like factories changed the way people lived, the way it created cities, or the advent of the sewing machine created cities and took people away from that farming life into a city life. So these are just examples of the way practical arts as a subject is so important and so works on the child through their time. I like to call it the great integrator. It isn't an in-breath alone where we're taking in information and being brought new content. And it's also not just an out-breath where we're sort of letting our body move and go and not really think. It's sort of both. And it's sort of a continuum that goes on. It's a wonderful middle point, and is so satisfying to the growing soul, which is why it's so fabulous to me. So I look forward to meeting you in your parent meeting soon, hopefully, and putting some faces to names and bringing you wonderful content this year. And for sure, if you have any questions or comments, please bring them through your teachers. I look forward to hearing from you.